In this video, we compare 3 different heat detection aids in practical on-farm situations. So, about me. I'm an ex-Kiwi dairy farmer. I've 30 years experience as an AI technician, and as I'm passionate about heat detection, I've set up a Facebook page called HeatMate, so check that out. And I'm also involved in developing software which caters specifically for block calving, so check that out as well at www.iagri.com. And I've been involved in mating management for various farms in North Wales for the last 10 years. 3 of the farms I've been involved with decided to use AI for the last 2 or 3 weeks of mating. And as we were using 3 different heat detection aids, I decided to gather information and look at the pros and cons of each one. The 3 heat detection aids were tail paint, scratch cards, and heat patches. First of all, we'll look at the pros and cons of using tail paint only. The important things with tail paint are that you must apply it correctly and maintain it regularly. Here we see tail paint being maintained and applied correctly. First of all, brush off all the loose, dry paint. Apply the tail paint sparingly and brush forward so that the hairs stand up. And I've found that the best paint to use is water-based paint because it's a bit thinner and allows the hairs to stand up. Here we see that if the tail paint is maintained well, then the bulling cows are easy to spot because the difference between fresh paint and rubbed paint is obvious. As we look at this cow here, we can see why. The paint has been flattened and is dirty and obviously rubbed. Rubbed tail paint is not easily spotted in the collecting yard, so each cow has to be carefully looked at every milking. And ideally, the person whose role this is needs to be allocated the time to do it properly. As I had to check every cow individually, that meant I was tied up the entire milking. Next, we will look at the pros and cons of scratch cards. The first thing you need to do is to warm up the scratch cards, and you can do this by placing them in a container and by placing that container in a bucket that is about 1/3 full of warm water. The next thing to do is to spray on a contact adhesive. This will help the scratch card stick to the cow's hair. And now it's a simple matter of sticking the scratch card onto the cow just behind the hips. Constant tail flicking can wear the coating off the scratch cards, as seen here. But as you can see, the wear on the scratch cards is not from bulling activity. This is the wear you'll get from bulling activity. The difference is obvious. Also, the rubbed scratch cards stand out in the collecting yard and can be easily seen while the cows are walking in for milking, as seen in this clip here. And here. One thing to watch out for with scratch cards is that they can be rubbed off completely. So don't just look for red scratch cards, look for missing ones as well. With this herd, I drafted out the bulling cows as they came in for milking, inseminated them and returned them to be milked. This worked well as the activated scratch cards were easy to spot, and it also meant that I was not tied up for the entire milking. The third heat detection aid we tried out were heat patches. These are applied in the same way as scratch cards, warmed up contact adhesive sprayed on and stuck to the cow just behind the hips, with the arrows facing forward. I found that the heat patches stuck to the cows quite well. And were easily spotted in the collecting yard. One thing I did find, however, is that we had a few of what I call false positives, where the dye had leaked out of the heat patch, but the cow was not actually bulling. Especially when you see genuinely bulling cows with the same amount of dye leaked out of the heat patch. We even had some that were leaking before they were even applied. With this herd, I would arrive during milking. I drafted out any bulling cows from the collecting yard and inseminated them, and any other bulling cows which had been drafted out already. This worked well as the activated heat patches stood out well, and it also meant that it was not tied up for the entire milking. So to summarise, with tail paint, you need a person with good heat detection skills. You need to be able to maintain tail paint regularly, and you need to carefully watch all the cows every day. With scratch cards, you need a person with good heat detection skills. They are simple and easy to apply. It's easy to spot the bulling cows in a mob. However, they can be rubbed off completely from the bulling activity. And I would recommend using tail paint as well, which should be a different colour from your scratch card. With heat patches, you need a person with good heat detection skills. They are simple and easy to apply. It's easy to spot the bulling cows in a mob. However, we did get a few false positives, which is something to be aware of. And I would recommend using tail paint as well, which should be a different colour from your heat patch. The advantage both scratch cards and heat patches have over just tail paint is that the bulling cows can be identified as the herd comes into the collecting yard, so there's no need to spend the whole milking just to pick out a few bulling cows. And if you decide to go all AI, you are less likely to end up with gates like these. So if you have any queries or comments, these are my contact details. And in particular, check out my Facebook page for tips on heat detection. And if you're looking for a farm software package that is specifically designed for block calving, then check us out at www.iagri.com.